Hello. So today I have an Etude from the same book. This one's in D flat major, and then I also have, I'm still working on the Nocturne Allegro Scherzo. But rather than play that on camera, I'm actually going to play through another piece I'm kind of adding to my learning queue, if you will. And so I'm going to play through that and talk about my thoughts on that. It's a really pretty piece. I mentioned it last time. So let's kind of set our Etude here. It's marked moderato. It's in D flat major. So which means that they might include something of B flat minor in it as well. But we'll kind of have to see and listen as we play through. I certainly haven't done like a theory analysis of any of this, so and I don't want to. But yeah, let's just go through this. A lot of it's very, very straightforward rhythm. It's certainly not as deceptive rhythm-wise as the other one was. But yeah, let's just go play through this. I'm going to leave the metronome on. I think I'm going to go 108 for this. Not too bad. Looked like I was really out of tune. Let me turn the metronome off, check that last E flat. Da, da, I think is where it was. Yeah, super sharp. Which is the natural tendency on my flute, is for C sharp / G flat to be really sharp. And I think that's a tendency on most flutes actually, is that particularly in that first octave, that D flat tends super sharp. The higher octave, not so much. That particular octave, very sharp. Much better. So that's a pretty good etude for trying to get your best tone quality in the smallest amount of time possible. There's certainly not a lot of time in that da 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 to produce a very solid sound. So it certainly makes you try to set your whatever you're doing much faster to try to get that nice reverberant, very very pure tone to come out. But yeah, used to be wise. It's really hard to play musical until you get to that end where it's a little more melodic, but you can kind of hear the progression too. And to me, it does sound like it goes into B flat minor, at least for a little bit when it starts including those A naturals, which would be the leading tone of that B flat. Not that I think it ever resolves it, but to me, it is in B flat minor for just a little bit. Let's move on. In the interest of keeping things a little shorter, so we have the Butterfly Lovers. So this is a violin concerto, and my favorite arrangement of it is actually for the Chinese violin, which only has 2 strings, and the bow is embedded in between the two. It's called the erhu, E-R-H-U, and it's really pretty. I really like that recording of it. It's just really done well with the traditional Chinese orchestra and the instrumentation. But it actually was written originally for a Western orchestra, which is okay. But it's a really pretty piece, and it transfers to flute really well. And there are just certain style things that I really enjoy playing about it. So I'm going to kind of play through it a little bit. It's a 28-minute piece, so I think I'm just going to focus on maybe the first 3 pages for today. And kind of give my thoughts on it. And it starts with a very mysterious kind of opening with some, I don't remember quite what key, but I imagine it's G. There's like open fists, and then a harp is plucking to emphasize those kind of chords, and it just starts with a very surreal opening. And then after that, the solo comes in. That's the first page, and that's just the opening. It has this very beautiful melody, and it's really kind of like the main theme that comes back much later in the concerto as a recapitulation, as per usual with concertos, right? But it's just very pretty, and there are certain things about violin and flute that, there are certain things that you can't do on flute that you can do on violin. So, that presents some challenges style-wise, and it means you can't necessarily play everything that's written on the page. So if you kind of look, I'm going to show you the middle of the score. So, if you look right here at the beginning, there's that little, it almost looks like a slur. It's like it's just slurring the B to D, but then there's a little arrow that's actually indicating to bend up, to kind of gliss up to that D, which you can totally do on violin, right? That's what those numbers, they're actually fingerings. You'd use your second finger, and then you slide that second finger to the pitch, the D natural. So you can bend the pitch up to that. We can't do that on flute. And we can add chromatics, but that kind of takes away from the style. So right in between B to D, there's only 2 notes, right? C and C sharp. So if we did like a chromatic gliss there, it doesn't sound the same, because when you do a pitch bend gliss, you're not emphasizing specific notes. So when you do a gliss that features specific notes, in this case C and C sharp, it's not the style of the piece. So if I were to do that gliss fingered wise, right, and try to compensate for the fact that I can't purely bend a B natural all the way up to D natural's pitch, it's going to sound really bad. It would sound like this. It's not the style. it's not right. It sounds better just to kind of do it as a grace note and just let the pitch bend not be there. And now it doesn't distract from the style. And it doesn't lose too much by not having the gliss. The gliss really is emphasizing the B natural and the D natural, and you still have that. So let's talk about other things. So there's this little arrow here, and there's no note to it. So it's saying to start flat and kind of scoop up to that pitch, which is actually a very common jazz marking. Flutes can do that. We can start a pitch flat and kind of bend up to it. We can absolutely do that. In this case, I think that adds to the style if you execute it. And in this case, that particular case too, the note before it is an A natural. So it's pretty easy to know where to start it. So then going on here, right, there's another pitch bend, right? Go from A natural, bend it down to an F sharp. Flute cannot play an A natural and bend it down to an F sharp. I can certainly try though. Right, almost got a G sharp, right? So I can't really do that. And so in that case, I leave the bend out. I don't want to add chromatics. It's not good for the style. It's almost like it's a different piece. It does not sound like the style. And you don't really hear that in traditional Chinese music. You don't really hear chromatic scales too often. If at all. I'm trying to think of an instance where I can think of a chromatic scale in Chinese music. No, there's so much emphasis on that pentatonic scale that if you add those chromatic tones, it really detracts from the style. Let's keep going. There are other things flute can't do, or they can kind of technically do it. So that there is indicating to use a harmonic fingering. And flutes can use harmonic fingerings, but in this case, the A natural we use actually already is a harmonic fingering. Let me think here. That's another way to get that A natural to come up. So another way you can play that A natural is if you finger your low D, you can get that A natural to come out. However, flute harmonics tend to be out of tune, and they tend to be a little more piercing, whereas on violin, the harmonics tend to be very clear and warm. They're certainly not louder, and sometimes flute harmonics are kind of louder because we have to pop them out. So if I were to play that with a harmonic fingering to try to honor the fact that it's a harmonic, it probably wouldn't fit the style very well. It takes it out. It doesn't add to it. So in that case, I just leave that out. I think overall I'm just a little flat according to this tuner, but that's okay. I certainly don't want to take the time to try to retune and adjust. I'll just try to keep everything up higher in my mind. So that's another thing we can't really do. We don't have harmonics. Sometimes we do have practical harmonics we can do. At the very end of the piece, I do the harmonic there because it's practical, it fits the style, and it doesn't detract. But in this case, in the middle of the melody, it just does not work. What are other things? So flute can play low B if you have the extended foot joint. I'm just really bad at it, and it didn't respond when I wanted it to come out. So here's another thing. If you think about a violin's really almost like 4 instruments on one. So right here, it's indicating to only play on the 4th string. Not that you can play that particular B natural anywhere else, but for that entire measure, it's indicating to play it all on that 4th string, then on the 3rd string for that measure, right? And then here, you really could play that on the first 2 strings. Certainly you have the open A natural there. You couldn't vibrate on it, but you could, right? But that would make the timbre a little different. So knowing that over here, over this whole passage, the timbre is supposed to be a little darker, a little more emphasis on that fundamental sound. That's something to keep in mind as you play it. You don't want to make your sound too piercing, which is very easy to do as flute. Flute has a very natural, bright sound to it. So knowing that those markings and what they mean, you have to adjust your style to that. If I can be natural play. So yeah, so full disclosure, I have like a leak somewhere in my foot joint, and I do all my own maintenance, and I just haven't fixed it because if you've ever done flute maintenance, for me to adjust these pads and to get them balanced right to where they're sealing better, I have to take like this whole thing apart. Like I can't just like take this off, look at it, and put it back on. So it's really annoying. And the pads are held in by screws, so you have to unscrew it, take out the pad, and then there's papers that balance how high or low a pad is, and then you have to adjust those. And it's just a whole, I mean, it would probably take me all day to really adjust it to where it was actually sealing much better, and I've just been too lazy to do it. So I really struggle with my low B, so I just try my best, but sometimes it's just not there. Yeah, so that's what I think with that first page of style. If you can do the pitch bend, do the pitch bend. That's very easy to do, but oftentimes we cannot do that gliss. If the gliss was like a half step or something, you probably could, or you could make use of our open holes to make that pitch bend smoother, but I don't really see any instances where I could take advantage of the physical mechanism like that. Yeah, so I think the way I'm playing it is as true to the style as I can be for not being a violin. So let's keep going. So that's a nice part. It's kind of a nice part to end the open theme, and then after there's a little bit of a cadenza, which I think I'll do next time. I'm going to try to keep these under 20 minutes just for time's sake. But there's just a bunch of things I'm trying to do to stay true to the style. You know, pitch bending into that, absolutely can do. I can't bend from an A to F sharp, so I just play the notes. I can't pitch bend from an E to a C sharp, so I just play the notes. You know, same thing there. Same thing here. And you know, there's like this performance where they keep adding all these chromatic notes. And I'm like, no. Like, because when you do that, when you do a chromatic gliss, you're emphasizing there's no way you're not emphasizing those chromatic pitches. So it's just not a great thing to do, since we can't do that true pitch bend all the way up there. Here, you have that stringendo, however it's pronounced. It kind of means like clutch, so you would push forward there, and then you have the retardando here, and that would mean to slow down. So you push through these, slow down, and then the orchestra takes the melody here. And then you kind of have this like soaring counter melody above. I don't like the trills to be too loud because I like the melody to be emphasized. I do not do a low B to low C trill because it's stupid, so I do that up an octave. We just can't play as low as a violin. A violin can play low G. We can't do that. So when you're looking at this piece, you have to do things that are smart for the phrasing. So I just do that an octave higher and then start there. And that doesn't, I don't think it bothers anyone too much, and it's just a trill, so, you know, just don't play too loud and no one will know. But yeah, so that's the start of the Butterfly Lovers, and I think, yeah, I will start with the cadenza next time, and we'll kind of go through some of this more interesting development stuff. But I will see you next time.